Well, I think there's a big opportunity to change the way that people work. The way that people want to be productive and want to work is very different now than it was 30 years ago. And I think the technology for productivity hasn't really changed very much in 30 years. So a really effective way to make the world better is just to give people better modern tools for being productive. And that's what we want to do. And I think that's a vision that's really attractive to the right kind of person. To me, there's no such thing as work-life balance because they're not different things. So when you're trying to balance things out, it kind of assumes that they're different. And to me, work and life is the same thing. It's good to have a purpose, a meaning, a reason for getting up, something that you're really in love with. And I think the best life is achieved when you have a unity of purpose in every hour that you spend awake. So yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with how much time you have for yoga or how much time you have off or how much time you have on. It has to do with working on something that is sufficiently epic, that is exciting enough to really command your attention, and then having the flexibility to really make a difference. Well, I think it's very important, but I don't think we work on that explicitly, directly. We don't directly say, like, what kinds of things can we do to make people feel safe or make people feel comfortable. We say very specifically, how can we have a mission that is worthy of great people? And then how do we make sure we have a structure where everyone feels like they're making progress towards that goal every day? I think people get frustrated when they feel like they're stuck, that they're not making good progress, when they don't understand their impact on what the company's doing. And we just really try very hard to make sure that everyone is aware of the impact they're having. There's many. One of the great things about being in this industry, especially in this area in Silicon Valley, is there are so many great mentors that are very open, that are available for talking at any time. So I've been lucky enough to actually have many great friends and mentors who have really helped me think this through. People who have accomplished amazing amounts. One of my best mentors is Hiroshi Mikitani, who is the founder and CEO of Rakuten, a great Japanese internet company. He was the first employee, and now they have tens of thousands of employees. So he's seen the entire journey and has talked really well about what that means. Other people like Mark Benioff from Salesforce and many other great CEOs, entrepreneurs, and investors. It's really a privilege to be able to be here with them. Well, I don't know that I'm really qualified to talk about leadership traits. I've never really self-identified as a leader or a manager. Like, there are people who are really excellent at managing and at leading groups of people, and I don't think that's what I am. I really focus on making something. I see myself as trying to build something, trying to create a product, and I'm pretty good at getting like-minded people going in the same direction to accomplish something. But I think there's a stage in the company where you need someone who is really a great professional leader, a professional manager, and that's not me. At some point, you need a totally different set of skills. Yeah, I think the way the world is wired up right now, especially in technology, people have infinite choice because the world is more of a meritocracy than it's ever been. If you make something really beautiful, if you make something really great, then because of social media and app stores, everyone's going to know about it right away, and everyone's going to be able to get it. And that sort of does two things. One is it really flattens the playing field. It makes it possible for anyone to get in and succeed as long as you can make something great. But it also makes the requirement to make something high quality and make something great higher than ever. So in one hand, the way that the world has become flat makes it much more difficult to run a company because you have to always be thinking about quality and greatness. On the other hand, it gives you great opportunities that have never been around before. So yeah, I think focusing on the experience and the beauty of the experience is the single most important thing you can do. To be honest with you, we probably don't do a good a job of that as we should. I tend to talk a lot more about what's going wrong than what's going right. That's one of my failings as a leader, as a manager, is I tend to focus on, if something happens correctly, if something goes right, like that, it's not efficient to keep thinking about it. But if something's going wrong, then that's what I'm going to pay attention to. So probably 90% of the things that we talk about are the things that aren't going well. And we kind of tend to forget the things that we've done that have been really successful. And we have to try to actually force ourselves to remember them and to celebrate them. And it's something we're trying to get better at. But to be perfectly honest, I think that's probably something we're not as good as we should be. Very important. It's kind of the whole point of failure. I think you have to define what failure really means. I think true failure is squandering resources. True failure is not trying. Like true failure in life is being in a position where you have the resources to be able to make a difference and not doing it. Like that's failure. If you're trying and the outcome isn't what you hoped it would be, that isn't failing, that's learning. It's only a failure when you stop. When you stop trying, when you say, I'm done, that's it. So we don't really think of projects that don't have the same kind of outcomes as we hope they have as a bad thing. We think of them as the right part of the process, as long as every single time we get closer to accomplishing what we want to accomplish. I don't know that everything always starts from the top. I think there's a kind of a cult, like a personality cult of sort of the CEO or the founder as being maybe more important than what they really are. I think certainly we play an important role, but I'm one of 400 people here. And even if I think that that I do the work of 10 people, that's still, there's still 390 people here. So the vast majority of what's important in Evernote isn't done by me, it's done by the rest of the staff. And my role is really to, it's to make sure that we attract really amazing, talented people, and then to make sure that they, have enough coffee to be able to go out and change the world. And I try not to dwell too much about the specific things that I do or don't do, because I'm one of very many people. It's tough. What we try to do is really channel creativity towards high impact areas. So I think an undisciplined creative person is creative about anything that happens to be interesting, but they're not really thinking about impact. I think when you add discipline to creativity, what that's really doing is prioritizing areas that if you were to improve, you would be able to have a lot of impact and really be creative in those areas. And we have lots of kind of exercises and procedures that we go through to try to make sure that we're innovating in the things that are worth innovating, not the things that are merely interesting, but they're also effective. There's methods of making decisions that try to foster that kind of thinking. I think the old ideas of productivity are based around these very physical concepts. I think it's really very clear what happened. I think the birth of our industry, sort of productivity with technology, was maybe 30 years ago. And the people who really created this industry 30, 40 years ago, they were forced with this challenge of how do you explain computers? How do you explain what you can do with digital technology to people who had no idea, who had never seen a computer? And so the people who created productivity at that time, like Microsoft Office, which is 30 years old now, they had to reach for very familiar physical metaphors. And so you got files and folders and desktops and slides and telephones. And you got all of these metaphors that were analogous to the physical objects in the world, because that was the only way we were going to get people to understand. But now it's been a whole generation. It's been 30 years later. And people today don't need these kinds of physical metaphors, these cognitively skeuomorphic ideas. And yet most tools for productivity are still rooted in this. Like, first there was a typewriter, and then Microsoft Word took that typewriter and put it inside of a computer. And then Google Docs took that typewriter and put it inside of a web browser. And that's progress, but it's still not enough. It's still a typewriter. The next generation are tools that are not based on physical concepts of reality, or tools that don't separate writing and talking and collaborating and reading, that let you do it all at once in one unified experience. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a unified experience where everything that you need to do to work is kind of created in one coherent, organized place.